Good afternoon and welcome to this episode of Chet Chats. I have the privilege of being joined by my brother-in-law, Justin Layton, and certified public accounting. Justin, tell us a little bit about your background and job experience.
Well, I'm a CPA and I do tax returns all day, every day, and that's pretty much it.
And in the course of your job, do you have an opinion on our currency system in this country and some of the pros and cons?
Yeah, I think that it's absolutely ridiculous. I think that cash is a thing of the past that we should get rid of. And I also think at the same time we should get rid of cents. I don't think we need to be counting out coins and pennies anymore.
Now, what would you say to people that say, we need cash because of people doing odd jobs or kids that want to have lemonade stands and maybe do some work over the summer and generating, some sort of under the table money? What would you say to those people?
Well, I think that it's just not really worth all the criminal activity that comes along with it to have a few dollars for those type jobs. I think they're just going to have one of those little things that people stick the credit cards in now.
Now, would it be possible to set up almost like prepaid debit or credit cards that kids could have, and then if people wanted to hire them to do tasks, they could be loaded, and then the kids could spend them and everything? Do you think that's something that would be possible?
Of course, as long as it's something that is somewhat regulated, that an auditor could actually look into if they wanted to.
Now, what sort of gave you the thought for this policy, or what made you think about this to begin with?
Well, I just think it's pretty much impossible to tell what people are doing with cash. So all criminal activity pretty much just thrives on cash. And I really can't think of a single job that really needs cash anymore unless you are a drug dealer or some type of criminal.
So is your thought that all these dollars that are generated through drugs, prostitution, other illicit trades, this is all money that's passing through the economy and completely avoiding taxation? Is that sort of the underlying
Yeah,
idea?
that's pretty much the only problem I have with it, because when you do tax returns all day, every day, and you see, the honest, law-abiding people paying taxes, and none of these people paying any taxes, it just seems kind of silly when, a good team of auditors, if there was no such thing as cash, could shut that down immediately, pretty much.
Now, another thing that I was hoping to get your take on is certain taxes that a lot of people might not be aware of that affect higher earners more. You were telling me about a few of them, but share that with the audience. We've talked before, maybe on the podcast, not necessarily the YouTube channel, about the tax policy in this country and how it really does hinder productivity by penalizing highly productive high earners. And so share with us some of the taxes that affect high earners that most people aren't even aware of.
Well, pretty much the main one is the accelerated tax brackets, and you have all these deductions. So most lower income people, they don't pay any taxes. Once you get your all your deductions and everything, they pay very little taxes. So you have the high income people paying all the taxes, and the more you make, the higher your tax bracket goes up. And then once you get up into the highest tax bracket, they hit you with a few other small taxes that most people don't have any idea about. The two main ones most people don't know about are the net investment income tax and the additional Medicare tax.
And what are those two?
Well, if you're in a high enough income bracket, if you make enough money and you have investment income, they tack on a little bit more tax on you, pretty much.
And then what's this Medicare tax that you're talking about?
Well, if you're in a high enough income bracket, they just tax you a little bit more with
So
additional Medicare.
Most of us see on our pay stubs taxes already being taken out for Medicare. You're saying that there's an additional tax on top of that some of the higher earners?
Yeah, I think it's 3.2%. They tax them a little bit more.
Wow. 3.2% on, sometimes a
I think that's what
six-figure income or multi-million-dollar income. That can really add up. So, very interesting. One of the things that, I've talked about before on the channel, and and so you work specifically for a firm that services corporate clients, and specifically fast food chains, right?
Yes.
And so I've talked before about how, when you demonize or penalize these high earners and everything, these are not these, rich billionaires, hiding away in some cave somewhere. I mean, these are the, business owners in our community that are a lot of times generating jobs. When you have someone that starts to get into a really high tax bracket and they want to open, and they come to you for accounting advice, do you sometimes see them deciding to not open additional stores or franchises because of the incremental tax burden?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you have somebody who wants to buy a few more restaurants, the very first thing they're going to think is, okay, how much is this going to cost me in taxes? Because you have depreciation, they get to depreciate. For the first couple years, they get a lot of depreciation, which lowers their income. But then after a couple years, that depreciation goes away and they have this huge income number that's usually taxed at the highest percent, which is almost 40%. And then you have, the depreciation's gone, and they still have their loan payments because they think, these people are just millionaires and they go out and they just buy these stores, but they don't. They used to take out funding, and they're trying to pay their loans. And so there's about 3 or 4 years there where it's so difficult to pay the taxes and the loans that a lot of them end up having to sell the stores, or they don't even do it in the first place.
So by this higher tax bracket, so, the lowest tax bracket being what, 20 some percent or something about that. And then we were talking about a highest tax bracket of almost 40%. So we're literally already talking about taxing higher income people at twice the rate, so we want to talk about people paying their fair share. So that's going to prevent someone from going up and opening an additional store. How many employees, both part-time and full-time, are going to work at any given corporate fast food chain?
Oh, just in a regular standalone McDonald's, you're talking 40, 50 employees at least.
So
just part-time employees.
So because of the progressive tax policy that we have, it is, you're saying that in your experience, it is not uncommon for someone to not open a store and to not employ and provide 40 to 50 jobs in a local economy because of the tax burden.
That's correct. And what most people don't realize is they think, well, if you have a high income, you're making a lot of money. But that's not necessarily true, because a lot of these people that are just starting out, they have to get a loan to purchase the restaurants in the first place. And those loan payments, the principal portion of the loan payment is not an expense. So they can have a really high income number, pay really high taxes, and not be making any money because they're paying so much in their loans and taxes that they literally have no money in the bank.
What do you think it would do if the tax rate were, let's say, reduced to just a flat 10 or even 20% for everybody, regardless of income level? What would that do for your clients in terms of their ability to open stores and hire personnel?
Oh, they just keep their foot on the gas. They would just keep right on going. They would try to get more stores, and they wouldn't be worried about, all this additional work I'm having to do is not worth it because I'm paying so much in taxes. What's the point? So they would just try to keep expanding and keep creating jobs, and everybody would actually have to pay some of the taxes to help fund all this free stuff they get to have all the time.
Interesting. So the idea of not penalizing people for being high earners could actually increase the amount of jobs in any given community. That's man. I wish someone had thought of this before. I wish someone would have said this before.
It's like rocket science.
Yeah, it is. It's like rocket science. Who would have thought punishing high earners and high productivity people could possibly harm an economy? I know I sure didn't. Well, thank you folks for tuning in. We appreciate it, and have a great holiday season.